Welcome to the ABA session for Civil Rights and Social Justice Chair Chat. I'm Bryan Hull, your guest host for today's conversation with a distinguished leader in public service, Treasurer Dale Folwell, CPA. Serving his second term as North Carolina's state treasurer since 2017, Treasurer Folwell manages the state's substantial pension fund, ensuring the financial well-being of over 950,000 public workers. His leadership has earned him the pension plan top national ratings for his funding discipline. Treasurer Folwell's career spans from a blue-collar worker to a respected certified public accountant and investment advisor with significant contributions in both the North Carolina General Assembly and as Assistant Secretary of Commerce, where he played a pivotal role in economic recovery efforts. Today, we delve into his impactful work on medical debt and healthcare finance reform, aiming to uncover insights and solutions for one of our most pressing challenges. Join us as we explore Treasurer Folwell's vision for a financially healthier North Carolina. Welcome, Treasurer Folwell. It's an honor to have you with us today. Let's dive right in. Can you share with us your journey to becoming North Carolina's treasurer and how your background has influenced your approach to tackling issues like medical debt?
Bryan, thank you for having me. And over the next few minutes, we could get emotional. We won't be getting political, but we could get highly mathematical. So if math makes your Zoomers nauseous, they probably should check out now. I'm the least likely person to ever be the keeper of the public purse, managing one of the largest pools of public money in the world based on where I started in life. As a newspaper delivery person, gas station attendant when I was 12 and a half, a motorcycle mechanic for 10 years, a garbage collector. Bryan, ask your grandparents what garbage collecting used to be like. It's not what you see on the street now. It's two big orange barrels that weigh 150 pounds apiece. And I was asked by a high school student the other day if I've ever lifted weights, and I said, not the kind you think of. My reason for telling you that is as the keeper of the public purse, responsible for nearly 1 million people on the pension plan, 750,000 people on the state health plan. Not only do I have a loyalty and duty of care to those folks, but the blood that runs through me is Quaker. And one of the spices of the Quaker religion is to be fair and just. You know, if you do the just thing on the front, there's not as much need for charity on the back. And I advocate for the invisible because that's what I was for most of my life. I define the invisible as those that don't have enough money to have political influence. They work 1 and 2 jobs. They pay their tax and hope and pray for upward mobility and the joy of achievement in their life. So it's really not important that all those that teach, protect, and serve know who I am, or that I have the responsibility for the 2 most important things in their life behind their health, their spiritual relationship, and their family. And that is the safety and security of our pension, state health plan, and prescription drug plan.
Yeah.
So as a motorcycle mechanic, what you do is you listen and you act and you fix.
Yeah.
And that's my reputation. Attacking problems, not attacking people, and focusing on saving lives, minds, and money. And that's why this issue we're getting ready to talk about is so important to me.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Thank you for that. So moving on to this critical issue,
Right.
the report your office released highlights significant noncompliance with federal price transparency rules by North Carolina hospitals. What motivated you to focus on this issue?
It goes back to what I said earlier about advocating for the invisible and focusing on what's just. And I'm going to use a term here, and I may not get invited back after using it. Back when I was taking classes at Winston-Salem State and UNC Greensboro, I stuttered more than I do now. And my professor said that if I was struggling with words the way that you are, I would try to go to the Webster's Dictionary as much as possible to define something. In the Webster's Dictionary, cartel is defined as association which is formed to restrict competition or raise prices. We have seen the cartelization of healthcare in North Carolina, especially over the last 7 years. The concentration of power into the hands of fewer and fewer of these multi-billion-dollar corporations who disguise themselves generally as nonprofits, who don't pay property tax, income tax, and sales tax. Why should that matter to your viewers?
Mm.
Because those are the taxes that fund the things that your viewers care about: public education, public safety, public works, and public roads. So we've seen a concentration of power in the hands of fewer and fewer people, and I call them a cartel because that's what they are. Let's go through it as you would think about the word cartel in other aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, they control the supply of their product. In North Carolina, through something called a certificate of need. Everybody talks about regulation, but I actually have a lot of props to show you. This is 1 month's agenda from the CON process in North Carolina.
Wow.
The cartel controls the supply of this product. Number two, they control the quality of this product. Recent reports have come out and said that hospital services in North Carolina are among the highest cost and the poorest quality in the United States.
Mm.
It's because the cartel can do what it wants to.
Mm.
So they control the supply, they control the quality, they control the access, they control the price, then they can control whether they break your kneecaps, destroy your upward mobility and your joy of achievement, and even put liens on your houses if you don't pay what they say you should pay for a product that you would rather not have consumed, because that would mean you're not sick.
Mm.
So what would satisfy me? How could we do a Zoom call where I'm happy about this? It's simple, 4 things. Number one is to stop giving the middle finger to President Biden and President Trump, both, who have both issued executive orders that says that you should tell people what healthcare costs. Bryan, it's going to be a little shocking to you, but I'm the largest customer of UNC Healthcare. They're the state hospital. I'm the state treasurer. I asked them for a price list many years ago. This is what they sent me.
Mm. Wow.
Every single page was redacted.
Wow.
But the presidents of the United States have told these entities to start telling people what things cost. Secondly, is to match the charity care that's associated with the billions of dollars of federal and state local tax benefit they get. Max that charity care with their tax benefit. We're finding tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of North Carolinians are being billed when they should have been eligible for charity care that they were not offered. Thirdly, is to tell people what things cost. Fourthly, is to stop breaking their kneecaps and putting liens on their houses for not paying their bills. And fifthly, when you make millions of dollars at a nonprofit, you should have the courage to display in public forums what your compensation package looks like. Because what I think you will find is that they've got their P's crossed. Now, my wife's a great cook, so if I get the P's crossed, it's all going to taste good. Okay? But I think that these entities were established to put patients over profits, but now it's profits over patients. That's what we're working on. That is what would satisfy me. And the result of that, in my opinion, would be lower healthcare cost, more access to healthcare, and the marketplace would drive higher quality, higher access, lower cost.
Wow, that's great insight. For my edification, how do these findings compare with the national landscape of hospital pricing and transparency, in your opinion, or in your research?
I don't know exactly how that is. I just know that we put out, we collect data and we work with Barack Richmond at Duke School of Law, who I think you're familiar with.
Yes.
Duke University, Rice University, Johns Hopkins University. You know, they get kind of prickly if you don't put the S on Johns. It's Johns Hopkins University. And I had to learn to say that. And all this is up on our website. And the latest one that just came out is hospitals suing patients.
Okay.
58% of these liens are default judgments. So If you're a guy my age, you go in for a knee replacement, they send you to a rehab to, or to live for a period of time while you get back up on your feet, so to speak. And then they send this big bill in the mail to you that you don't pay. Eventually that could end up in a default judgment. So 58% of the liens on people's homes are default judgment, which means no one showed up at the courtroom to say, whoa, what's this all about? And what we're finding, which is immoral, anybody who thinks this is a Republican or Democrat issue is not thinking. This is a morality issue. When we're talking about a product that people would rather not consume, no one would tell them what it cost. And then you can't tell if you had an appendectomy or a tonsillectomy when you get the bill. Then you have your kneecaps broken, your credit score destroyed, and maybe even lien on a house. So all we're trying to do is figure out what's right, get it right, and keep it right in the name of justice.
I appreciate that. And that kind of leans into the Medical Debt De-Weaponization Act.
Yes.
You've been a key advocate for that. Can you just explain a little bit about the act and how it would address these challenges of medical debt?
North Carolina, NC stands for nothing compares as far as our business outlook and business activity. But we're at the bottom of the ladder in terms of how we protect consumers in North Carolina. The Medical Debt DWAP Act passed the Senate 48-0, and it has not gotten a hearing in the House, and I'm not sure it ever will. And what it's meant to do is protect consumers. It's common sense legislation that protects consumers. And let's give you an example. A spouse has an extended stay in the hospital and runs up hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of medical bills, and then they pass away. Well, we're seeing the credit rating destroyed and very aggressive collection tactics being put toward the widow or the widower. The Medical Debt DWAP Act would protect them, surviving spouses. It would put a cap on the unbelievable loan shark interest rates that they're putting on some of these situations. And there's so many other protections in the Medical Debt DWAP Act. What I can tell you is that piece of legislation has been scored, and it would catapult North Carolina #2 in the country in terms of protecting consumers.
Wow.
And the consumers are those that teach, those that protect, and those that otherwise serve, which we have responsibility for.
Wow. So we need to get some movement on that soon.
But the cartel controls it.
Yeah. So you gave some great examples on how the lack of price transparency in healthcare contributes to the problem of medical debt. Are there any specific technologies or systems you believe could aid in improving transparency for patients, especially with the onset of AI and technologies moving forward?
I'm not sure about that,
Yeah.
Bryan. I will tell you that a former distant neighbor of mine in Winston-Salem was the great poet Maya Angelou. And when she says, when a person shows you who they are the first time, you should believe them. The leaders of these cartels could snap their fingers. They could direct their finance offices and their billing departments abide by the presidential executive orders at a snap of a finger. They could direct their collections departments, start aligning the charity care that we're supposed to be offering with the people, our customers who are coming into this facility. They could also send another message and say, stop breaking people's kneecaps and destroying their credit score for not paying their bill.
Yeah.
And then stop putting liens on people's houses.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to emphasize to your viewers here is that you don't need a law to tell you what's right and what's wrong. They could snap their fingers and do this immediately, but they won't, because they're always putting profits over patients.
Yes. So beyond any legislative measures, what practical advice would you offer to North Carolinians currently struggling with medical debt?
Let's go back to the beginning. Stay healthy. As Clint Eastwood says, in my instance, don't let the old man in. Motion creates emotion. Stay busy. Be alert. Do everything you can to stay healthy, to stay out of hospitals. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, which is not really possible in North Carolina, shop around for services.
Mm-hmm.
We had a teacher down in Fayetteville who was getting an EKG, and they were there 6 minutes, and they were going to charge them $6,000. And there was a $1,200 copay. Well, for a teacher, that's a lot of money. And the teacher eventually shopped around and got the services done for less than the copay, period. But when we have people, especially in this inflationary period, who are having to work 1 and 2 jobs, and every time they go to the gas station or the grocery store, they're getting robbed just a little bit. When we have that going on, it's hard for people to shop around.
Yeah.
Number two, always request an itemized bill. There should be no question in your viewers' minds about whether they had an appendectomy or a tonsillectomy. And number four, if they think they're eligible for charity care, pursue it. And number five is that if they don't have the money to pay, in order to keep their credit scores from being destroyed, which it ultimately destroys your upward mobility and your joy of achievement, have them put you on a $30 a month payment plan. But at the end of the day, Congress has been unwilling or unable to solve these problems, as has the North Carolina General Assembly.
Yeah.
And because the invisible people aren't sending them emails, aren't knocking on them doors, aren't taking them to dinner. And this industry, maybe even the pharmaceutical industry, they spend more on lobbying than the alcohol and the tobacco industry combined.
Wow. 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 What steps can individuals take to advocate for more transparency and fair healthcare pricing? In other words, how can the average citizen contribute to or support your efforts for transparency and reform in healthcare?
Well, anybody in North Carolina is assigned a House member, the North Carolina House, not the U.S. House, and it's 120 members of the House. But as you know, Bryan, at the end of the day, it just comes down to one person in the corner office.
Yeah.
The conductor of the train, so to speak, who does this or does this. The fact is, we could catapult North Carolina to number 2 in the country and protect them as consumers with a snap at less than 15 minutes of legislative time. So they can call their House member and have them get the medical debt DWEP up on the chamber floor for a vote.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great advice for our members. So as we conclude our conversation, I'd like to ask a sort of a final question. Like, what message would you like to leave with our viewers, particularly those that are directly affected by medical debt or concerned about healthcare affordability and transparency in North Carolina? What do you want to leave them with?
Bryan, long before you were born, there were a lot of things that happened in the 60s. The Beatles went off tour, and the civil rights movement. The positive changes that came in the civil rights movement from the 60s was not as a result of the lawmakers. It was the result of the music. And I use this in another term that predates you, I think. When Popeye says, "I can't stand it because I can't stand it no more."
I remember that.
And my point is that that's where people are getting to with medical debt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if it's Dale Folwell, a conservative, or Elizabeth Warren, not a conservative. When she says that 20% of the bankruptcies in this country are associated with things around medical debt, she's right. That's why this is not a Republican or Democrat or libertarian or unaffiliated issue. It's a moral issue. So my hope for your viewers is simply this, that people can't stand it because they can't stand it no more. When you have a little church down the street from me in Winston-Salem who just paid off $3 million in medical debt at like $58,000, but let's forget about the $58,000. Let's forget about the $3 million. Let's remember what the destruction of people's credit scores, the increase in their cell phone bill, the increase in their homeowners, and their their increase in their property taxes. No, increase in their automobile liability insurance. Whether they can get housing because of their credit score, the interest rate they pay on buying a house. You see, all this stuff is connected and it's fixable. And I say this with obviously a level of passion, but it's fun to fix things. I'm a motorcycle mechanic. It's fun to conserve, which means to get more out of less. It's fun to liberate, which means to set economically free. The root word of liberal is to liberate. It's fun to fix things. We can fix this. And so my final message for your Zoomers is we've got to come together, stop screaming past each other, and resolve this big issue that's afflicting the majority of North Carolinians and Americans.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's a great message. And you're right, we can fix this. Well, Treasurer Folwell, it's been a privilege discussing these critical issues with you today. Your insights into the challenges and solutions surrounding medical debt and healthcare transparency have been invaluable. On behalf of the ABA section on civil rights and social justice, I want to thank you for your dedication to the financial health and well-being of North Carolinians and for joining us on this important conversation. And we look forward to seeing the continued impact of your work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bryan. And next time I come on, I'll talk about weight loss drugs. And one big company in Denmark, this drug costs $1,600 retail in North Carolina. They sell it in their home country for $250.
Wow.
So when we come back and do another Zoom call, we're going to talk about prescription drug costs.
Listen, I'll hold you to that. I look forward to that as well.
Thank you for setting this up and for advocating for the invisible. Thank you.
Thank you.